What is going on, kids? It is Dr. Remy LeBeau, and I'm coming at you once again from the X-Lair to provide you my deep and insightful thoughts into Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I finally got a chance to see it for a second time tonight, and I felt compelled to finally just kind of sit down and talk about it a bit. It's a pretty monumental film for a variety of reasons, ultimately because it's another great Marvel film. And it's the first one really beyond the epilogue to the Infinity Saga, which was Spider-Man Far From Home, that really kind of moves the story forward into something else beyond, of course, the Disney Plus stuff. We had WandaVision, which set up a lot of shit. We had Falcon and Winter Soldier, which set up a bunch of shit. And Loki, of course, monumental in terms of sort of establishing the multiverse and what may be happening as a result of that. But this is the first one that sort of kind of brings in a whole new world of characters, a whole new mythology that can kind of play into a bigger storyline that might then move the bigger stories towards the next Avengers film, which is another Avengers film with Shang-Chi and all the characters that they're planning to bring in. It's a very exciting time, as it always is for the MCU. I mean, when is it not an exciting time for the MCU? And that's one of my favorite parts of it. It's like it just keeps kind of getting better, and it keeps kind of heightening the overall joy of the experience, which is freaking fantastic, and I freaking love it. So this movie is important, obviously, because of Asian representation. First and foremost. The director is Asian. Most of the cast is Asian. Most of the crew was Asian. So you really had like Marvel doing what they did with Black Panther, which is like really lean into the idea of like, well, let's kind of push the needle forward and for representation both in front of and behind the camera in order to tell stories about different people that haven't had these kind of stories told before by an American company. With like a big property like the MCU, that really kind of gives them reverence as their own sort of quality people, and it just kind of expands the sort of the level at which everybody is within the Marvel universe. It's not just like Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, Thor, a bunch of white guys, Captain America. It's like. You have now, and even Scarlett Johansson, you get a woman, at least one woman initially in the first round, but she's a white woman, right? So it took a while for them to bring in Black Panther, and now we have Shang-Chi, and it's getting wider and bigger, and it's very inclusive, and I love every fucking second of it. But beyond that, fucking great storytelling, great filmmaking, just an overall great experience, and that's what this movie also offered. Like it had a great story to tell. It told it very well. There was a lot going on, and it worked. There was a lot to juggle, a lot of characters, a lot of story, a lot of bigger than life sort of elements, and it all sort of worked. And that's what's great about the MCU. It just keeps being able to pump the sort of resources into these projects that allows them to breathe and then ultimately come together in a very cohesive, tight way to create these wonderful spectacles that also tell great stories, are about characters that we care about, and just provide that sort of experience that we're looking for from this kind of entertainment, because that's ultimately what it is, entertainment. For someone like me who grew up with Marvel, like it's lovely to see Marvel like really leaning into the sort of the fantastical aspects of the Marvel Universe. Having pushed everything forward with the Infinity Saga, now we can go even further. Now we've got like fantasy elements that are brought in from this film. It just keeps making that really delicious kind of like spicy soup that is the Marvel Universe. So it's wonderful. I love it. I love Shang-Chi as a character. I love Simu Liu as an actor. He's fucking hot. He's a great actor. He's got charisma. It's fantastic. He works great. Awkwafina is fucking hilarious throughout this entire movie, and she also has heart. So she's not just like the sort of the comedic foil. She is also one of the characters that like is growing throughout the film. In not an explicitly like elaborate way, but nonetheless, like she has her own little arc, which is nice. Her relationship with Shang-Chi, fantastic. But really, at the heart of it is like this crazy family, right? You got the father, who is actually the real Mandarin, um, who has the 10 rings, has lived for a long time, meets the mom. We get the beautiful freaking fight scene at the beginning where they're sort of like, they're sort of having this moment of like, of a courting kind of ritual on top of a battle, but ultimately it winds up with love, and you immediately resonates as authentic, and then we carry the story forward, and then ultimately we see that Shang-Chi is born, and then he's a kid, and then we see him as an adult. So it does a really good job of setting up a backstory, starting a trajectory, and then bringing us to the present, introducing us to Shang-Chi as the current day guy that we're going to be following for a very long time, ideally, likely. And then it kind of introduces his world. You know, he's got a very simple world. He's a valet driver, Parker, and you have him with Aquafina. They're good friends, Katie, and you immediately get the relationship. You see him with Katie's family. There's a lot of really lovely sort of moments that really kind of express what is happening in the sort of Asian American world that these characters live in. And then immediately we're thrust into that bus scene, which is so fucking good. That whole bus sequence, the fighting within, without, the splitting of the bus, the sort of larger than life giant machete on the arm element for the what was his name? I just had Razor Fist. Razor Fist, who apparently is from the comics. I did not know this. I did not read Shang-Chi myself. I always stuck to the mutant world mainly, but apparently he's in the comics. Anyway, so then we get that great battle, and then we find out things from that moment that sort of take them on the bigger journey that takes us to then, was it San Francisco? I believe we went to San Francisco, right? Like up north. And then that's where we get an even sort of further expanding of the world. Now Shang-Chi is in a place where we have Wong from the Doctor Strange films, and he's fighting the Abomination from the Incredible Hulk film, which apparently the Abomination is going to be in the She-Hulk show coming up in probably March of next year. So we see that he's already being kind of interwoven into the greater tapestry of the greater MCU. There's a moment where I think prior to all the bus stuff, we get that sort of a comment by their friend inside of the bar that they live in a world where half the people can be snapped out of existence, referring to obviously the what do they call it? The blip? They call it the blip. So the blip. So it's established. We're in the Marvel universe. There's Wong. There's a portal. Blah 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 blah. Back to Shang-Chi's story. Great fight with Shang-Chi and his sister. Beautiful. Expands the story, and then all of a sudden, bam! We get another super fucking great action sequence. I fucking love that. That outside of the building fighting action sequence. That shit is fucking fire. Fire. I mean, that shit is fucking on fire. It's burning my fucking eyeballs as I was watching it. I loved every fucking second of it. The excitement, the trepidation of falling. It just, everything fucking worked, and it looked great, and the direction was fantastic. Everything was very clear as things were happening. It was dire. I was on the edge of my seat, like, what the fuck? This is crazy. And then it all kind of works out, and then we have a battle with Shang-Chi and his old trainer, and then the father shows up, and it's fucking dramatic, and then we are taken to the compound of the 10 rings, right? And that's where we then get back into the father sort of part of the story. We start to establish family dynamics, and then we also establish the fantastical sort of aspect of the mother's sort of sacred town that exists in another dimension, is what is understood to be the case. And then we figure out how to get there, and then we get the reintroduction of what's his name, Slattery from Iron Man 3, played by Ben Kingsley. Fantastically hilarious. Just wonderful to see that character again. Wonderful to see the sort of the movie, but also, you know, just kind of Kevin Feige and everybody behind the MCU, like kind of making a little comment, like, we get it. You didn't like our little fucking Mandarin fake out thing. Here's the real Mandarin. We're commenting on it. We're bringing in Slattery. It's coming full circle, because there was the one short after Iron Man 3, I think it was in the Blu-ray of Thor: The Dark World, might have been, or it might have been Winter Soldier, one of the two, where we see Slattery in prison, and then it's mentioned, oh, there's an actual Mandarin, and that was a while fucking back. So it's been a while. I mean, that was before Avengers: Age of Ultron, for God's sake. So it's been a while. This little thread has been dangling, and now they finally kind of pulled on it and made it into something, and it worked really well. I loved his introduction. He's the one that gets them to the town, right? The sister comes along. She's fucking dope. I love the sister. She's fantastic. Great fighter, great character, great sort of representation of like a woman growing up in a more like a patriarchal situation that took it upon herself to not let the patriarchy kind of hold her down. And she made herself into this awesome fighter, and then she built up her own little empire, which is dope. She's fantastic. The actress plays her fantastic. Everybody has a great dynamic. We get to the place, the town, the mystical town. We get the sort of fantastical world. We get the introduction of Michelle Cho, I believe that's her name, which is the aunt of Shang-Chi and his sister. So I just love seeing that dynamic. I love seeing the dynamic of everybody in the town. Awkwafina's sort of involved. It all seemed to flow really nicely, and Awkwafina could have been like sort of this like standout kind of thorn in the whole side of this film, but it wasn't. She wasn't. She was funny, but she felt like she belonged, and then she took it upon herself to be part of what was happening, and that worked for me, you know. And then, you know, we get sort of some more story. We get that beautiful sort of telling of the lore of the Dark Gate, right? And the soul sucker, whoever, that monster thing, that gaiju thing that lives behind that gate. We find out more about that, and then we understand, okay, so the father's being tricked, and this thing is calling him, pretending to be the mother, and the father wants to get to the town so that he can get to the gate so he can free the mom, is what he was thinking. But we know the mom was killed, and then we see sort of a flashback of the mom getting killed and Shang-Chi being there, and then it turns out Shang-Chi actually went through with killing the guy who killed the mom, and therefore he's kind of has blood on his hands, and he needs his own redemption. It's really quite lovely. We see I love that scene with Michelle Cho and and Shang-Chi, like the fight between them, fantastic. I love the sister learning to do the thing with the rope, fantastic. And then we get basically the end sequence, right? The father shows up. There's a big battle between the Ten Rings folks and the people from this town. It's very wonderful. Ultimately, it comes down to Shang-Chi and his father. His father fights him, throws him in the water, leaves him to die, goes to open the gate. Things seem dire. All of a sudden, those demons come out, start sucking some souls. Everybody unites against the demons, and then it's Shang-Chi versus the father, and everybody else versus the demons. Things kept changing. I like that aspect of it. I like that it wasn't just a clear cut like this side versus this side. It's like, no, like there's a bigger threat. We need to face this together, and they did a really good job of establishing that. And everything looked fucking great. And then, of course, we have the final battle between Shang-Chi and his father. And then ultimately, Shang-Chi gets the Ten Rings, which is a very important moment because that's sort of like the culmination of his backstory, him getting the Ten Rings and them having this extra power that goes along with everything that he already is. Clearly a martial arts master. Also, he has this heart of the dragon, and now he's got the Ten Rings. So there's a lot to him, to his power, to his skill set that is really in depth and really kind of all comes together to converge to make a wonderful new Marvel hero. and then of course it's him with the sister. The dragon comes out of the water. They're on the dragon. They're fighting this other thing. Aquafina is the one that takes that shot and kills that thing, sort of, almost. Like she gets him in the throat, but it's distracting enough that Shang-Chi can then come in, blow him up. It's fucking fantastic. The ant survived. Great. The ant's going to be involved. Fantastic. Everything's great. Lovely. Then we're back at the bar with them, Aquafina and Shang-Chi with the friends, and they're having a little conversation. And they're telling the friends all about what they've done, and then fucking Wong shows up, takes them to the portal. The movie fucking ends. I mean, goddamn, man, this movie's fucking great. Like, it works so well on every level. I just don't have anything bad to say about it. I don't. Like, I just can't think of anything that I didn't like about it. I really enjoyed the whole thing a lot. And so overall, just it fucking works for me. And then we get the first end credit scene where we have we get the understanding that there's a homing beacon within the rings, and it's calling somebody. We see Shang-Chi with Captain Marvel and Bruce Banner. Fantastic. Wong is there. Great. We're expanding the universe. They're becoming part of this universe. But first they're going to go karaoke. Hilarious. And then at the very end, we see the sister. She has now taken over the 10 rings, and she has made women part of the Force. Fantastic. Fucking love it. I don't know. There's nothing about this movie I don't like. I fucking love it so much. It's beautiful. It's great to watch. The relationships work. The acting works. Everything works. I love this movie. I fucking love it. I can't wait till I have it at home on DVD, on Blu-ray, whatever. Fucking get to watch that shit on a regular basis. First chapter of this sort of season 2 of the Marvel Universe, in a sense. Black Widow was a prequel, basically, sort of, to like the forthcoming Hawkeye show, which actually looks really good, by the way. I'm really looking forward to that. So we got him. We got Yelena, I think is her name. So she's going to be in it. I really like Black Widow, but I think this movie clearly was the one to kind of move the needle forward. And now we're going to get Eternals, and we're going to get Spider-Man No Way Home, and then we're going to get Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It is crazy. There's so much fucking MCU happening. It is wonderful. I was going to talk about What If. I didn't love every episode, but I did like quite a bit of them. And maybe once it's all said and done, maybe I'll go through and talk about some of them. I didn't want to talk about all of them because I don't love all of them, but I did like most of them. In fact, I think I liked all of them, but I definitely loved a couple of them. And I'll talk about those. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Either way, loving MCU stuff, loving Marvel shit. The more the merrier. Give it to me now. Give it to me in my veins. Stick a needle in my eye. Whatever you gotta do. I am looking forward to more MCU, and that is the Infinity Gauntlet up in your face to remind you that there is true power in watching these movies, and that is somewhat omnipotent at times, and it's fucking dope. Anyway, love this flick. Recommend it. And that's that. Just wanted to get my thoughts down. Hope everybody's doing well out there in the world. Things are wacky as always, but as long as we all just hang in there and take it one moment at a time, things should work out for us individually. Have a great time until I see you next. And as always, I want to remind you that if you have not already, I recommend that you put an X in that box because ain't nobody checking me. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.